Hey, what's going on, Agents for Life? Happy 4th of July. Welcome to podcast 140. Because of the patriotic feeling in the air, I wanted to share a story. This story crossed my path. I don't know where it came from. I get stuff that crosses my path from all different directions. But this is a story, a different story about freedom. Now, you hear a lot about the patriots and the revolution and the Civil War and all the military heroes and way back into George Washington's day and the founding fathers. And those are all great stories. But today, I just want to tell you a story about freedom that you've probably never heard before. And I hope it inspires you to seek your own freedom and the value of freedom. So, again, we're pushing pause on all the trainings for just one more episode. We'll be back next week. But because of the 4th of July, listen to this. And I really hope that you get the shivers up your spine like I did. This is a gentleman by the name of Henry Brown. And he earned the title or the nickname Henry Box Brown. And I'll tell you why. So, he lived in 1815. Okay. He was a slave. At age 15, he was sent to work on a tobacco factory. That sounds like a lot of fun. Again, he was sent to work. Now, imagine this. I've never been a slave, but someone else is literally telling you exactly what you're going to do with your life, and you have no way around it. You have no freedom to decide. So someone else is deciding for him. So he was sent to work in a tobacco factory, and he fortunately had a kind master, so that was good, but he still didn't have his freedom. And he married another slave, a fellow slave named Nancy. Now listen to this. They had a couple of kids, and when she was pregnant with their third, the man that he was paying money to not sell his family. Now let me say that again. The man he was paying money to not sell his family, okay, betrayed that little agreement, and he sold his wife, and who was pregnant at the time, and their 3 children, leaving him alone. Can you imagine? He was paying a man to not sell his family, and he did it anyways. This guy wanted his freedom, and he came up with a very unique way of achieving it. So he built a box, he saved up money, and he shipped himself to a free state. He got in the box and he shipped himself. Now, way back then, this was back in the early 1800s, they didn't have all the rules and regulations for today. And I heard of people shipping children, shipping animals, all kinds of things. So he shipped himself, and he got a couple of people in on it. Had some people that helped him that were sympathetic to his story and his cause, both the guy helping him from where he was leaving and the guy that was receiving on the other end. Anyways, so day comes where he needs to ship himself, and he has to get out of work, right? Because he's working at the tobacco factory. So what he does is he burns his hand to the bone with sulfuric acid. That's what gets him off of work for the day. It has to be that bad for them to not work. So that's how he got out of work. Goes home and he crawls into this box. It's 3 feet by 2.5 by 2. That's the size of the box. He put on the side dry goods. He put handle with care. He put this side up, even though people didn't pay attention to it. While he was shipped, he was turned upside down regularly. And it went from wagon to railroad to steamboat to wagon to railroad to ferry to railroad and finally to wagon again. 27 hours. He went in with a few biscuits and a little bit of water and a hope that he would arrive without suffocating. The box was enclosed. There was one small hole for air that he gave himself. And this is what he said: if you have ever been deprived of your liberty, as I was, you cannot realize the power of that hope of freedom, which was to me indeed an anchor to the soul, both sure and steadfast. You talk about your freedom and wanting your freedom and the freedoms that we take for granted every day. My goodness, what one man wouldn't do to go get his. Interestingly, when he got to the other side, he opened up, stood up. I can imagine how good that felt. And he quoted a psalm from the Bible. And the first words he said were the men that received him were expecting him. And he said, "How do you do, gentlemen?" That was what he said. And apparently they've changed some of the rules and regulations now since that time. So there weren't, even though they tried to ship more slaves that same way because of his success story, they were unable to because they cracked down on that. So you couldn't ship people, I guess, much longer. I don't know when they came out with an official rule, but a couple of people were arrested who were helping him, and they found out that they were helping him. But from what I see, he became a free man. He spoke, and he had, a very wonderful rest of his life. I don't know what he did from there on, but he was an inspirational story to me. Henry Box Brown is what they called him. So if you want to look up his story, you can find out a little bit more. But it's a little bit off the beaten path. It's your unusual 4th of July story, but the message there is undeniable. And that is the length to which a human being will go for his or her freedom. Somebody held back against their will for too long. It's like pushing an inflated ball to the bottom of the pool. The harder you push, the more it resists until it just pops up out of the surface, right? Something happens, something snaps. Now let's talk about your freedom for just a second. Last week, you heard my podcast about my 5-year anniversary of getting my freedom. And I love that it's right before the 4th of July. How about you? What does your life look like? Do you feel like you have your freedom? If not, what lengths are you willing to go to get yours? What are you willing to do? How bad is it? The problem, I think, for most of us is that we have life too good. We live in a modern era with tons of luxuries. I mean, you look at our lives that we live now, compare the worst among us, the most impoverished among us with 100 years ago. We're living like kings, guys. If we have warm water just by going like this to a faucet, cold water, pure water, we don't have to walk anywhere. We've got, indoor plumbing, we've got air conditioning, got windows and walls. You've got a front door. I mean, look at the blessings, right? They're simple. They've been around forever, so we take them for granted, but it's all in how you compare. But besides the material things like that, how about the stuff you can't put your finger on? Is someone else telling you what to do? Is someone else telling you how much you can make, when you got to come in, when you have to take time off, how many sick days you can have, for crying out loud, how often you can get sick? Is someone else building your schedule out for you? Is someone else mapping your whole life? You're going in for what? To someone else to tell you what to do, right? And how did you end up here? You might be asking yourself. Well, it's probably just by not taking intentional action in the opposite direction. So I go back to my previous question. How much are you willing to fight for your freedom? Are you willing to get in a box and risk 27 hours of possible injury, suffocation? I mean, can you imagine being dropped or put on his head and snap his neck? I mean, he's all crawled up in there. How many things could have gone wrong? He could have easily died, could have starved, could have suffocated. I bet he was praying a lot. I bet it was uncomfortable. I bet he got itches and slivers and who knows what that he couldn't reach. And he just had to be quiet. But he wanted to scream sometimes. Got to keep going, right? And that's how it is. Freedom is not free. There is a cost to it. Sometimes that cost is pretty great. But freedom's an amazing thing, right? And it's worth fighting for. And you're finally in a vehicle here with a life insurance license and unlimited potential for how much money you can make and how many policies you can write and how many families you can protect. You can get your freedom. This is a vehicle that can get you where you want to go, provided you're willing to go out and fight as hard as Henry Box Brown. If you want it bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, if all that you dream and scheme is about it and life seems useless and worthless without it, if gladly you'll fret for it, plan for it, lose all your terror of God and man for it, if you'll simply go after the thing that you want with all your capacity, strength, and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and a stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famished and gaunt, nor sickness, nor pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim you besiege and beset it, with the help of God, you will get it. Guys, that's what freedom's all about. I am thankful to my all those that came before me to make this country what it is and give me an opportunity to go out and do something great with my life. I don't want to blow it. I hope you feel the same way. Happy 4th of July. Let's go out and get your freedom. Take care.